let's dive into something that's probably bugging you more than you realize. Literally.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're talking about mosquito-borne diseases right here in California.
Oh, interesting. Mosquitoes. Everyone thinks they're just annoying, but...
Exactly. But this article we found, what diseases do mosquitoes carry in California?
hmm
From Simple Pest Management. It really dives into some surprising risks.
Yeah, they can spread some nasty illnesses.
Not just the usual West Nile either.
Right. The article does a good job of covering all the different types. And the different mosquitoes, too.
So let's start with the familiar, I guess. West Nile virus. Big one here, isn't it?
Yeah, West Nile is pretty common in California. Spread by those Culex mosquitoes.
And most people, they don't even have symptoms, right?
That's right. Most people are fine. But, some get fever, headaches, body aches, that kind of thing.
And in rare cases, it can be serious.
Yeah, it can lead to neurological problems. So, even common mosquito-borne illnesses, you can't take them too lightly.
Right, right. Now, the article also mentions St. Louis encephalitis, and then there's Western equine encephalitis.
Yeah, those are also transmitted by Culex mosquitoes.
Similar symptoms.
A lot of overlap with West Nile, yeah.
Okay, so we've got the usual suspects, but now this is what got me. Diseases you wouldn't really think about in California.
Oh, yeah, like what?
We're talking Zika, dengue fever, even yellow fever, and chikungunya. I mean, those sound like tropical vacation risks, not something you worry about here.
You're right, they are less common here, but the possibility is there. They're spread by a different mosquito, though. Aedes mosquitoes.
So different mosquito, different diseases.
Exactly. And Aedes mosquitoes, they've got those black and white markings. They're easy to spot.
Wait, so you can actually identify the riskier ones just by, looking at them?
Yeah, pretty much. And they bite during the day, unlike Culex.
Oh, so that's even trickier. Okay, so black and white stripes, got to watch out for those. But those diseases, the article mentions dengue fever in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, and those diseases, they can have some pretty nasty symptoms. Dengue, for example, can cause terrible headaches, joint pain, like the worst flu you've ever had.
Yikes. And what are those other ones? Yellow fever, chikungunya. I mean, just the names sound scary.
Yeah, they are serious. Yellow fever, it can cause jaundice. Your skin and eyes turn yellow. And chikungunya, that one can cause debilitating joint pain. And it can last for months, sometimes even years.
Wow. Tiny creatures, big impact. Makes you want to just stay inside all summer.
Well, there are things we can do. The article talks about larvicides and adulticides.
Right, right. Can you explain the difference? I always get those mixed up.
Sure. So larvicides target the mosquito larvae, the ones that live in water. And adulticides, they're for killing adult mosquitoes.
So it's not just about swatting. There are actually ways to, control the populations.
Exactly.
But what about just protecting yourself?
Well, the article emphasizes EPA-approved insect repellents. Those are really key.
So not just any bug spray.
Right. And wearing long sleeves and pants, especially during dawn and dusk. And, think about your home. Screens on windows, doors.
Right.
And any standing water, you got to get rid of that. Like buckets, flower pots, bird baths. Those are mosquito breeding grounds.
Okay, so combination of personal protection and then thinking about your environment. Now, it's not just about humans either, right? This canine heartworm thing?
Right. It's spread through mosquito bites, and it can really damage a dog's heart and lungs.
So by protecting ourselves, we're also protecting our pets.
Exactly.
But what if the mosquitoes are just relentless? Like you're doing everything right and they're still there?
The article mentions calling in professionals.
Yeah. If it's a persistent problem, a pest control expert can help. They can identify breeding grounds that you might miss and use safe and effective treatments.
So it's like calling in the reinforcements.
Exactly. And the CDC and local health agencies, they really recommend these precautions, especially during peak mosquito season. So we've talked about types of mosquitoes, the diseases, ways to protect ourselves. But how much of this is on us as individuals? And how much is a, bigger issue?
That's a good question. It's definitely both. Individual actions are important. But really effective mosquito control, it takes a coordinated effort. Public health agencies, local governments, even just regular people, we all have a role to play.
It's community effort.
Yeah, realizing we're all in this together. And that's how we create a safer environment for everyone. It's really interesting, when you dig into this, our understanding of these diseases has changed so much.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, take Western equine encephalitis. It's way less common now, partly because of mosquito control, and also they vaccinate horses.
So something we think of as pretty rare now used to be a much bigger deal.
Exactly. And there were some bad outbreaks in the past. Really shows you how quickly these things can spread and how serious they can be.
It all goes back to that community responsibility thing.
Right. It's not enough for just one person to empty their bird bath. You need everyone involved.
So what are some examples of, like, community-level action?
Well, a lot of places have mosquito surveillance programs.
Mosquito surveillance, what's that?
They basically track mosquito populations and they test them for diseases.
So they know what's out there.
Right. And then they can target their control efforts, like applying larvicides where mosquitoes breed, or even spraying in high-risk areas.
So it's like a mosquito intelligence network, gathering information to plan their attack.
Exactly. And public education is huge, too. Letting people know about the risks, how to protect themselves, and how important it is to cooperate with these control measures.
So you give people the knowledge, and they can help protect themselves.
Right. And then there's the bigger picture, like reducing breeding grounds on a larger scale.
Okay, how do you do that?
Improving drainage systems, for one. Getting rid of anything that can collect water, like old tires, containers, even landscaping practices can make a difference.
So you're really trying to hit it from all angles.
Exactly. It's got to be a multi-pronged approach.
You mentioned before that responsibility is shared. How do we balance, what we do individually with what the community does?
That's a tough one. We need people to take those precautions like we talked about, but we also need communities to invest in surveillance, in control measures, in education. Everyone has to be on board.
And it goes beyond our local community too, right? Some of those less common diseases, they come from other countries.
Absolutely. We're so interconnected now, diseases can spread really fast. So you need international collaboration too. It's a global health issue.
It really broadens the scope of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But even with all that, the fight's not over, is it?
Definitely not. Climate's changing, mosquito populations are adapting. We've got to stay informed and keep developing new ways to control them.
Like what?
Well, research into mosquito vaccines, new kinds of repellents, even genetic modification techniques.
Genetic modification for mosquitoes.
Yeah, it sounds futuristic, but it's being researched.
How does that even work?
One way is to modify mosquitoes so they can't transmit diseases. The idea is to release them, they mate with wild mosquitoes, and eventually you reduce the ability to spread disease.
Wow. But wouldn't that mess with the ecosystem?
There are definitely concerns. Any new technology has risks and benefits, so they're doing a lot of testing to make sure it's safe. And effective, of course.
So the future of mosquito control could be pretty different.
Absolutely. But for now, we've got to focus on what we can do, as individuals and as communities.
It's amazing how something so small, like a mosquito bite, can lead to such a big conversation.
It is. Public health, community responsibility, even global issues, it's all connected.
And scientific innovation, too.
Right. It shows that even small actions can make a difference when it comes to protecting ourselves and our communities.
Well said. Before we get completely carried away by mosquitoes, let's take a little break. We've got one more part of our deep dive to go. We'll uncover some even more surprising things about these little creatures and what the future holds for mosquito control. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our mosquito deep dive. We've talked about the diseases, how to protect ourselves, all that.
Right.
But I hear there's more, like some really interesting stuff about how mosquitoes actually find us.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty clever, those little guys.
Clever. Mosquitoes, come on.
Seriously. They're attracted to us in some, well, pretty sophisticated ways.
Like what? I mean, is it just like bad luck?
Well, there's carbon dioxide. We exhale it. And to a mosquito, that's like a dinner bell.
So just by breathing, we're basically inviting them over for dinner.
Pretty much. But it's not just that. Body heat, lactic acid from sweat, even the bacteria on our skin, it all creates a unique scent.
So it's like we all have our own special mosquito perfume.
You could say that, and they could detect it from pretty far away. Wow. But do they, have preferences? Does everyone smell equally good to them?
Well, there's some research suggesting that certain blood types might be more attractive.
Wait, seriously?
Right.
Like, a mosquito can be picky about its blood type.
It's still being studied, but there's some evidence that people with type O blood, they might get bitten more often.
So if you're type O, you're like, the 5-star meal? Great.
Well, something like that.
Well, good thing we talked about those prevention tips, right?
Definitely. Repellents, covering up, getting rid of standing water, it all helps.
Taking control. Minimizing the risk.
Exactly. But like we've been saying, it's not just about us as individuals, it's about the community and even the future.
And speaking of the future, I hear there's some pretty amazing research going on, like could change how we deal with mosquitoes altogether.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. Genetically modified mosquitoes, for instance.
Okay, we did touch on that. What's the latest there?
Well, one approach is to modify them so they can't transmit diseases, release them into the wild, and they mate with the wild mosquitoes, and over time, you reduce the spread of disease.
It's like fighting fire, but with mosquitoes.
Exactly. But there are other technologies too, like these traps that use lasers.
Lasers. Okay, now that sounds straight out of science
I
fiction.
know, right? But they're actually being tested. The lasers detect mosquitoes in flight and zap them.
So it's much more targeted than just spraying pesticides everywhere.
Right. Better for the environment and probably for us too.
Makes sense. So genetically modified mosquitoes, laser traps.
Mm.
The future of mosquito control is sounding pretty wild.
It is. And it's a field that's constantly evolving. We're learning more all the time, and that means we can develop better strategies to protect ourselves.
It's like a never-ending battle, but we're getting smarter about how we fight it.
Exactly. And it's a battle worth fighting. Mosquito-borne diseases are a serious threat, but we have the knowledge and the tools to make a difference.
We do. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm definitely walking away with a new appreciation for those tiny little creatures and a much better understanding of how to deal with them.
That's great to hear. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, take precautions, and you'll be well equipped to handle those pesky mosquitoes.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mosquito-borne diseases. It's been fascinating, to say the least.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and stay bite-free.